I used to believe that Christianity was dangerous to human progression, that it was nothing short of evil, and that all it did was oppress people who disagreed with it. I used to believe that if humanity was to move forward, Christianity had to cease to exist. Now, I want to be a missionary moving across the planet just to tell people about Jesus. So what happened between then and now? Well, a lot, but I'll summarize it as best that I can. Skip over all of my childhood and just say that after a while of living, I had been pretty bitter. Bitter about a lot of things in life, and bitter towards just about everything that I could be. More so than anything, I was bitter towards religion and God. I thought, why would I have to go through hardships if God exists? Why wouldn't he just not let that happen? Help me, save me from those. I had never been religious, but I thought, maybe, if God does exist, I can give it one last shot. So one night, I tried to pray. I didn't know what God I was praying to, I just knew if God exists, then he can probably hear me. My prayer was simple. I said, God, if you do exist, I want you to give me proof, and if you do, I'll give my life to you. But it would be many years before I was ready to see any of the proof that was around me. I was such a hardened atheist that I considered it my job to tell people that religion wasn't true and to have them join my side as an atheist. Apparently I did pretty well because I was surrounded by atheists for the majority of my life. All of my friends were atheists, and if they wouldn't, they would be soon. I did have one friend, though, who wasn't an atheist, and he showed me that Christianity might not be that dangerous at all, and at best, just kind of a nuisance. Although he may have softened my view on religion, he didn't change my mind. So now, fast forward to college. College is a difficult time for a lot of people because everything changes. Where you live changes, the people you're around changes. The only thing that stays the same is yourself, and even that changes. Now, I like to have time to myself and quiet time and all that, but after months of it, it does get kind of boring and lonely. So one day, after months of just checking out in my room, I'm walking on my way to lunch and I see this table out of the corner of my eye with some people sitting at it. One of them calls out to me and says something about a week-long trip to Texas for just $25. I thought, there's no way that that's true. $25 to Texas from Wisconsin? That can't be true. So I walked up to it, and sure enough, all I have to do is be one of the first people to sign up, and I can go to Texas over spring break for just $25. So of course I took the paperwork, filled it out as quickly as I could, and I brought it to the meeting of this club that was hosting this trip. And I walk in and realize, this is a Christian organization. I'm going to be going with a Christian organization for a week to Texas. And I'm already handing them my papers. I can't back out now. I thought it's not that big a deal. It's still an almost free vacation. I'll take it. Strangely enough, though, I was treated very strangely when I walked into that meeting. I had never felt so welcomed in my life. I felt like I was treated like a long-lost friend. I didn't know any of these people, and yet they were just so kind to me for seemingly no reason. In fact, I kind of got overwhelmed by it, and I had to leave the room and just think, like, wow, that was weird. People are normally just that kind for no reason. Spring break comes around, and we go down to Texas, and it was, and still is, one of the best weeks of my life. For most people, going down and working for a week, helping to rebuild homes for people who have lost them due to natural disasters, doesn't sound very fun, but for me, that was all I wanted in a vacation. I might not have known anyone when I went, but by the time it was over, I felt like I knew some people, and the missionaries involved who worked at my college were inviting me to come to their meetings. I have a hard time saying no to people if I feel like they're going to be disappointed, so I thought, you know what, I'll come to one meeting. I don't have to come to any others, right? So after spring break is over, I walk into one of their Thursday night meetings. And I come and I sit down in the back, and I wait and listen to their speeches. And one of the missionaries starts to give her talk for that meeting. And the first thing out of her mouth blows my mind. Almost makes me gasp in the back of the room audibly. She says, there's a myth that Christians believe that God doesn't give you more than you can handle. I didn't even know what to say, because I did believe that myth. I had been told that that's what Christians believe. And in just one simple sentence, she had completely blown away my blind trust in the atheists I had been getting all of my information from. I thought to myself, if they're wrong about this one tiny little thing, what else could they be wrong about? What else do they have their information wrong about that I don't know about? See, I had failed to do the research myself and look into things myself. I had always just trusted other people I thought were smarter than me. And now I see, well, they might just be as smart as any other human. And I realized I might have to look into this on my own. I still thought that religion and Christianity was all just hogwash and ridiculous stuff for dumb people, but I thought I'd have to figure that out for myself now. I can't just trust someone else to tell me that. And at the end of the first meeting, I go to sprint out. I want to get out of there as quick as I can before someone talks to me, but one of the missionaries kind of boxes me and stops me just to thank me for coming. And it's then that I realized that they don't know I'm an atheist, which makes sense. I never mentioned it. They didn't ask. And I did go on that Christian trip, so maybe they thought I was a Christian, but I wasn't. So I made the first big mistake. I thought, well, I just won't mention that I'm an atheist. I'll leave that out. It's not a big deal. They don't need to know. I'm not going to act differently anyway. Sit in the back, be quiet, all that kind of stuff. They won't even care. Regardless though, I said I went to a meeting, I did what I said I would, I don't have to come again. And next week comes around and I'm in the meeting again. And I show up again and again and again every week, and I even start going to the events that the fellowship was hosting all throughout the week, not even on the club days. And honestly, I wasn't really sure why. I didn't know why I was going, I just kept going. I tried to come up with these excuses in my mind. I thought, well, I want to learn more. Why not go to the source? Or I thought, well, they have free food on Thursday nights. I don't have to pay for her. At one point, I even thought to myself that I'm getting the enemy's secret knowledge, and I'm just learning more about them so I can defeat them better when I argue against them. Whatever made-up reason was in my mind, I kept going, and I enjoyed it a lot. And one day I'm leaving a meeting again, and I get boxed in again by one of the missionaries, and they tell me that they want to meet with me weekly to study the Bible together. I thought, that's crazy. Some atheist meeting weekly to study the Bible, that's not going to happen. So naturally I opened my mouth and I said, yes, I'd love to. However though, it did lead to me making one more big mistake. I couldn't just casually not mention that I was an atheist now that I was studying the Bible with just one other person. I had to actively pretend to be a Christian, even though I wasn't one. But I did it because I did want to learn about the Bible, and I thought that if they knew I was an atheist, then they would treat me differently. Maybe they'd hate me or kick me out of the club, wouldn't want to talk to me, shun me even. And I didn't want that to happen because quickly the fellowship became the highlight of my college career. It was not just a community that I could be involved in, that I felt accepted and welcomed into. It was something that I really looked forward to every week, every event. I even went on to the Bible camps on the weekends. It was so much, it meant so much to me, and I didn't want that to go away. The Bible study was incredibly helpful to me, and I found it to be very interesting. Every week that I met with the missionary, I realized more and more that what I thought Christians believed was not actually what Christians believed. As an atheist, if you'd have asked me, I would have told you I was an expert on theology, an expert on the Bible. I knew everything. You could just ask me. Turns out, I didn't know all that much. All the missionary had to do is open up to some passage and tell me what it really means, and I'd be blown away. I thought, wow, I would never have figured that out on my own. The atheist I listened to gave me a totally different idea of what this means. And I kept finding out that the atheists I was listening to were just either not doing the research or just providing a straw man. But I still wasn't convinced. I still thought, all right, maybe they're not correct, but I'm correct. I still think God doesn't exist. Just makes sense. That's what I thought. But one thing that was difficult for me while studying the Bible is I found a lot of stuff I agree with. You read that love is patient and kind, and I agree with that. You agree that rape and killing is wrong, and I agree with that. There's just so much good morality in there that you don't know is in there unless you read it for yourself, because no atheist is going to tell you what's in there. And I wondered to myself, how could I possibly agree with so much in this text that was written so long ago that I previously thought was the foundation for all evil in the world? How could it be that a man who lived almost 2,000 years ago, who was single his whole life, who lived in a time when women were oppressed all over the world, wrote the best words on love ever written? How could he do that? I didn't know, but it definitely wasn't God, I could tell you that much. The strongest evidence for Christianity at the time that I was wrestling with was the idea of objective truth. I thought truth has to be objective. It can't be subjective. Truth can't be something that it relies on our opinion and our observation. It has to be something more than us. And if that's true, then that means there has to be something more than us that was in charge of making that truth in the first place. There has to be something that we did not discover. There has to be something more than us that isn't contingent on us seeing it. And I wrestled with trying to understand what that could be. And then another mistake happens. The missionary comes to me and asks me to be a student leader of the Christian Fellowship Club. Can you believe that? An atheist as a Christian leader at this college. I thought, that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen. I'm an atheist. This just can't be. This can't be the case. It can't happen. And I actually said no. Then he asked me again, and I said yes. And I very much enjoyed being a student leader. Being not only a part of that community, but being someone who advocated for the community. And I loved the community so much. I thought, so what if it's based on a lie? It's so great to have this community that you just don't get elsewhere. And I wanted to be part of the community, and that's why I kept trying to lie and pretend to be a Christian, because for sure they wouldn't want me in the group if I was an atheist. Now I thought, I'm in too deep, I can't be honest now. If I tell them that I have been lying this whole time, they'll definitely kick me out, they'll definitely hate me now. Despite lying to people, things were going pretty well for me. Between the community and learning so much every single week, I was actually pretty happy at the time. But then I made another big mistake. I started dating someone who thought I was a Christian. And that started off on a pretty bad foot. Needless to say, things weren't working out very well in any aspects of my life. They kept getting worse and worse, and I kept trying to fix them, but it would only make it worse. And it seemed like my life was just spiraling downward, and there was nothing that I could do about it, because the more I tried to fix it, the worse it got. I was working a really hard job. Everything in my life was getting so difficult. I didn't know what to do. I kept trying to fix things on my own, but it just wasn't working. Finally, I was in my dorm room one night, thinking about all the things that I was struggling with in my life. I felt lonely again. I felt like nobody knew who I was, truly, and they didn't, because I was lying to them. They only knew the me that I wanted them to know. They didn't actually know the real me. And that made me feel really lonely, even when I was deep into some community. I felt like I was being controlled by oppressive forces that were bigger than me, like depression and addiction and loneliness, all these things that I couldn't beat or even fight on my own, no matter how hard I tried. And trust me, I tried. And I was sitting there in my dorm room thinking about all these things and how I might go about fixing them. And I just couldn't think of a way to do anything about it. I couldn't think of a way to fix it. And I finally had to come clean to myself more than anything and say, I can't do it. I can't do it. And when I spoke those words, I became a Christian. See, I already had all the facts straight. I knew the gospel. I had done enough Bible study to know briefly what God was trying to tell me. I knew all the evidence. I just needed to make that final step. But I was too afraid to make that final step. I had been entrenched in atheism my whole life, and I was too afraid to step out of that, step away from that, change deeply to the very core of who I was. That was scary. But when I said the words, "I can't do it," a lot went through my mind. I thought, if I can't settle my issues, if I can't fix my problems on my own, how can they get fixed? No other person is going to fix my issues for me. It has to be bigger than that. But it also has to be something powerful enough to actually fight something like loneliness. Something that no human alone can beat. Well, what's bigger than us? What's more powerful than us? Well, only one name came to mind: Jesus Christ. And I thought to myself, I have tried to fight my problems and failed. I put my trust in myself and I failed myself. And I can't really trust anybody else to fight my issues for me, so that only leaves one person to trust in: God and Jesus. And I thought, I can't just do this a little halfway. I have to put all my eggs in one basket. I gotta go all the way in if I'm gonna do this. I can't just kind of trust Jesus to fix my problems. I have to put all my trust in him, or I can't expect it to work. So when I said the words, "I can't do it," I realized that God's the only one who can do it. If I trust in him, maybe he'll help me get through it. And I just started sobbing for who knows how long in my dorm room, as I quickly realized that I needed God in my life. That at the end of the day, it wasn't evidence that convinced me to be a Christian. It wasn't facts or Bible reading. I became a Christian because I can't do life without God. It just doesn't work. I just keep failing when I trust in myself and in my own understanding and in my own ability to do things. Because I'm just a human. I can't do everything. I can't know everything. Only God can do that. And if I want to accomplish great things, I can't just rely on myself to do that. Things didn't immediately get better when I became a Christian. In fact, they got kind of worse. I still felt lonely and like nobody knew me. I thought maybe I'm technically not lying anymore. I really am a Christian, so maybe all this will just go away and I won't actually have to be honest. But it didn't work that way. I tried to just keep going on like everything was normal, but I just couldn't do that. I had been through an enormous life-changing event, and I couldn't even tell anyone about it, because if I did, they'd know I'd been lying. I had been saved by Jesus, and I couldn't tell anybody. And that ate at me. And every day, more and more, the fact that I had been lying to people ate at me and ate at my soul. I felt worse about it every day, until it was all that I was thinking about. It was always in my mind. I felt like such a terrible person, when I had never planned for that to be the case in the first place. I had never planned to lie to anybody. It just got out of control before I could stop it. That's what happens when you tell little white lies, or when you lie by omission. It'll catch up to you. It'll grow bigger than you expect it to. I eventually came to the conclusion that it would be easier for me to just leave the community than to come clean and be honest about everything that I had done. So I made the last and biggest mistake of this story. I left the community that had been the most important part of my college career. And despite thinking that leaving it would fix everything, it just made it worse. It just made me feel more lonely. See, becoming a Christian doesn't mean that all of your problems are instantly fixed. It just means that God gets to work on them. And God had a lot of work to do in my life. And pretty quickly, as I was praying one night, God reminded me of a prayer I had prayed many, many years ago. One in which I said that if he proved himself to me, I would give my life to him. Now, every Christian is called to give their lives to God, but that's not what I meant in my prayer. I meant like monk style, missionary, whatever religion ended up happening to be true, put my life into it and nothing else. Have that be everything to me. And I thought, No way, I can't do that. I'm not doing that. God, have you seen my past? Have you seen my present? I'm not qualified to do that. I can't. No way. I'm not doing it. I thought maybe it's not actually God speaking to me. It's just stuff going in my head, so I'll forget about it in a day. But I didn't forget about it. Every day, more and more, it grew in the back of my mind. It never left the back of my mind. I never forgot about it. At all times, I had this little voice in the back of my head saying, you need to give your life to God. There's no other way of doing things. That's once God has called you to do something, there's no other path to walk down. But I said, no way, I'm not doing it. And I ran away as far as I could. It's a little humbling to look back on that the first thing I did after becoming a Christian is run from God. But it's a reminder that things don't just become instantly great after you become a Christian, and we shouldn't expect it to be that way. And God wore me down more and more as this need in my heart grew to give my life to Him in some kind of full way, in ways that I just couldn't deny anymore. I found myself working a job over a summer and thinking to myself, instead of this job, I could be telling people about Jesus right now. Wouldn't that be better? So I finally said, you know what, God? You win. You win. I'll stop trying to run away and do things my way and just let you lead me down whatever path you want me to go down. And I'll be a missionary if that's what you want me to do. I'll go across the world if that's where you want me to go. Because I'm done going where I want to go and doing what I want to do, because it never works out. And as soon as I made that confession, I felt amazing. I finally felt like I'm where I need to be. I'm going after what I need to go after. I felt like I finally had that purpose, that goal. A goal that God was helping me to reach. And that brings us to today, where I finally got approved to go all the way over to Japan to just tell them about Jesus and nothing really else. And I'm very, very happy and excited. And I can't wait to see what God has in store for me. So the takeaway here is a couple of things. Firstly, don't consider yourself an expert in someone else's opinion until you've asked them what they believe. And don't settle on what someone else tells you who God is. Let God tell you for Himself. And if God can reach out to me, if God can save me, if God can use me for better and greater things, do you really think He can't use you? That He can't reach you? That He can't save you? Don't think that you're just better or smarter than someone else because they believe in something that you think is stupid. At the end of the day, we're all humans. We're all on equal footing here. And we all need God. Deeply. If you're an atheist watching this, thank you for watching. And I want you to just ask a Christian sometime what they believe. You don't need to do a ton of work. You don't need to debate them. Just ask them what they think. And if you're a Christian watching this, I have another message for you. Your story is not any worse than mine is. God saving someone is a miracle. God saving anyone is a miracle. If you're a Christian, you have that miracle. You have a story about that miracle. If you haven't told anyone lately, tell somebody. Especially somebody who needs to hear that story. So thank you for watching if you've watched all the way through this. And by the way, I did end up telling the people I lied to the truth that I had lied to them. And believe it or not, those Christians forgave me and let me back into the community that had been so important to me. I think you'd be surprised the kind of forgiveness you can find in a Christian circle. Give it a try sometime. Thank you.